And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. If you can see me, hello, hello. We're gonna get real quick into a NFL NFL puppy draft. We're gonna draft a puppy. We're gonna draft on Draftkings. My first time drafting on Draftkings this year, where I was profitable for the season. Draftkings draft really got me profitable this last season, which was nice. Had a couple players that I really liked last year. Maybe we can tap into that team, going over who I had on that team and what won it for me. Maybe in this video, maybe later on, but I am definitely drafting a puppy right now, getting the $20 or the $5 puppy, 20-second timer. Oop, my location. What's wrong with my location? Should be fine. Just have to do this a couple of times. Let me exit out of Underdog. Sometimes it's silly. But yes, we will draft a puppy on Underdog. I have about 1 through 60, 1 through 70 of my rankings on Underdog. I haven't got to adjust yet on Draftkings. But once I kind of have a feeling of what I like on there, I will go ahead and let you guys know who I like via my rankings. So my rankings are uploaded from 1 through about, I want to say Pickens or George Pickens. George Kittle, I'm sorry. Long day. George Pickens sounded right, but I was thinking of a tight end. George Kittle, so right at 50, because I'm including Brees Hall. Actually, it's more like 51, 52, about 50. There's a couple of guys in here still right around the George Kittle area. So about 1 through 60 George Kittle should be around pick 60 or so when I am fully done with that. But I do have my rankings uploaded on Underdog. And we have gotten into a couple of Underdog drafts before. But this is just fairly new for me. Getting into Draftkings this year. When I talk about Underdog, Draftkings, Underdog is a half PPR site. So on Underdog, you're gonna look for guys NFL players. I haven't had pick 6, which is pretty nice. Picking from the middle of the draft, I got Fantasy Dog Pound here and pick 11. If you want to switch drafts, let's run it, bud. Let's run it. Did I log off? Nope, I'm still on. Oops, technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. But I'm logged on. That's why. No, but seriously though, got too excited. Saw Fantasy Dog Pound on here. Big fan of his. Big fan of pick 11 as well. But as I was saying, drafting in Underdog, drafting in Draftkings, very different. Underdog, we were looking for players that can end up in the end zone most likely. And for their quarterbacks, you're more looking for rushing upside. On the other hand, with Draftkings, you're really looking for players that can have more so yardage at the quarterback and wide receiver position. I'm gonna take Jameer. let's do it. Let's take Jahmyr Gibbs right here at the 106. I think he's a fine click there. His ADP is at about 106. I think he's a tier ahead of Ashton Jeanty, at least for now, at least for this year. My take on running backs actually is running backs you kind of need a year or two for them to fully hit um, their full range of outcomes or their peak. Um, some data that I've really just looked at and that other analysts have pulled out is running backs that are around 25 to 27 is when they fully hit their highest outcome at the running back position. Ashton Jeanty coming in at 21 or 22. He might, even though still a very good player coming into the draft with projected capital at his position, I think he is still a type of player like Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, that he needs about 1 or 2 years to get the pace of the NFL, to really understand how holes will open up at the NFL level, to really maximize his potential when he slows down the game. You can also see when any NFL running backs don't really hit after in the NFL is in their in their longevity of their career also. So a player like a Kyron Williams, who I'm not very in on this year, I think he and other players that I can't think of their name right now, like a Breeze Hall, I think, and I think that could be a controversial take for the best ball bros out there and best ball girls out there as well. I think Breeze Hall is a type of player that is already, at least in my opinion, and I'm glad I took Lad there, are running backs that kind of, you know what they are, and they might be able, because of their draft capital, because of the prospect that they were, that's the word I was looking for Gene T, the prospect that Gene T was compared to like a Breeze Hall. He you could say Gene T, if he has a career that starts like Breeze Hall, that he might still need a year or two to really hit his full potential. But in that case, I think the running backs that see running backs come into their backfield early and they're drafted still within their rookie year, and running backs also that running backs that are in their rookie contract that also see other running backs on their team get picked up in the draft with also just some draft capital, even in the early day three. And when I say early, I think early day three is still the 5th round. Getting Jaden there would have been pretty interesting, not gonna lie. Chuba Hubbard is the top of my rankings. I'm also quite down to go with Marion Hampton. This bet is more so on the Chargers being a pass funnel team. And so I'm going to just take the medicine with Chuba Hubbard. I also think Chuba is kind of in that range, like Breeze Hall, like Kenneth Walker, like James Cook, that can see other running backs in their backfield take away touches from them. I think it starts with Kyron in Underdog. But what I was trying to say, and it wasn't coming out, sometimes it comes out really well, and sometimes what I'm thinking does not come out so well. So I apologize on that. I'm trying with this fantasy Underdog, this fantasy football YouTube thing. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get better at my explaining and grow my my content out there in hopes to maybe um, be in the NFL as a scout, work in international affairs if they continue to go abroad. I like the Hurts pick a lot. I'm going to go Addison. Oops. So I do get Addison there. Addison is a wide receiver 3. One of my more favorite clicks on the board. I think in, let's see, Addison in full PPR in Draftkings is going to be a more fun click in my opinion. I think a lot of the fantasy community is not as high on Jordan Addison, or maybe just skeptical of how many games he will play this year, and more skeptical on JJ McCarthy. I think I've said it in a couple other videos. JJ McCarthy's range of outcomes is between Brock Purdy. So if you guys think Brock Purdy is just an average quarterback to a little bit above average quarterback to a very good quarterback, and Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion, a top 2 to 3 quarterback, in my opinion. You can put Lamar over or behind him, and I wouldn't argue with that. Patrick, Burrow, Lamar, or Patrick, Lamar, Burrow. But when running backs, I'll talk on the running backs here. I'm just going to click whoever I think. I think this is like a fine range. I can get him on the way back. You know what? I don't really grab him all that much. With the 2 running backs that I have, I think it's quite fun. I'm going to do that. Mix it up a little bit. As I was saying, with the running backs that see guys that get draft capital in their rookie season, it's a kind of a telltale sign that the team isn't quite into them to the fullest extent. I think about 20 to 25% to about, in the high outcome, 35%. It's more scheme dependent, like we've seen the Lions do with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think majority of teams drafting running backs, and even you can say maybe even wide receivers, but majority of the times running backs, in my opinion. If you see them drafting a running back and they already have a running back under the rookie contract, it is it's a sign to us fantasy drafters that, hey, this running back isn't as great of a running back as we thought. And we're going to try and pivot or use him less and see what this other running back gives us. Let's see. I'm going to grab Jaden Reed. I think he's a fun click. I'm trying to grab other pass catchers in Green Bay. And I think Golden already went off. Yeah. So this is a little slide for Reed. In my rankings, I have him at 122. That is severely low. I think I need to push him up into the hundreds at least. And he's probably right after, I probably have him around 90, 91 when I fix everything, but I haven't got that deep into the rankings yet. But with these going 3-4-0-3-4-3 to start this draft, I think it's very fine. It's a very fine draft. It leaves me open to quarterbacks that I like, tight ends that I think with this year in Underdog, I think drafting them in the middle rounds to late rounds is very understandable. What I might do is I might just Swift as the fourth running back would have been very interesting to me. I'm a Jordan Mason drafter this year. I'm going to, you know what? You know what? I'm going to do that. And maybe one of those guys comes back to me. If not, I have Rico on the way back around later in the draft. I kind of blanked on the quarterbacks. Very long week for me. Someone talked me in, and I've been more so talking myself into the Chargers and the Packers for fantasy. I'm trying to understand fantasy more so not as just good teams, bad teams, but teams that score points. What teams kind of like to keep it competitive as like a shootout type thing, and which teams like to keep it competitive in terms of like shootouts, and which teams just like to like run the ball, run out the clock, and just have like a brawl, so to speak. Sharps. We're gonna do it. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun running backs on this team. I think doing this, I'm kind of pushing quarterback and wide receiver, or quarterback and tight end for the most part on this team. The reason why I think is I haven't done a full push on both of these guys. Let's see, where's Dak? Has Dak already went? I know he's low in my rank. There he is. Oops. Yeah, so this pocket of the draft, I kind of like to get a little bit more diversified because I can't really choose who will do great or who will outseed expectations. or outmeet expectations for fantasy, and I think this is the most dangerous zone in my opinion, between like 6 and 12. In round 6 through 12, you kind of just want to get quality backup pieces, in my opinion, guys that don't kill your draft. In my opinion, I think Fields, Kyler are the two quarterbacks that can really kill teams because you're picking them early. Yes, they do have rushing upside, but I think you need more so rushing upside along with um, the ability to outscore, let's say, a Lamar Jackson. Or the reason why quarterbacks that are going in the middle range, like, I'm gonna take Kraft here because I think it's just fine. I think it's just fine. The reason why I think quarterbacks that go where Patrick goes, Mahomes. The reason why Patrick Mahomes goes in the 8th and Kyler goes there is totally different. Patrick goes there because he can score, or he can offer your team 300 pass yards, 3 touchdowns. Whereas Kyler, his upside is like 100 rushing yards and like 2 rush touchdowns. Which I think they both sound pretty fine to me. But in my opinion, I'd take the former in Patrick Mahomes and throwing touchdowns, because as teams get more film on your team and on your play style, I think as a quarterback you can become very limited on your legs, and teams will understand that. Whereas at quarterback, if you're a quarterback, if your quarterback is like a Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, I'm not saying they're the same type of player. Even Brock Purdy, and in my opinion, what JJ McCarthy will be like and what Dak Prescott was earlier in his career. When you're pass first at the quarterback position, you're playing more so the distributor of the football and your ability to pass first but also run. I think when you have the running ability, when you're having the running ability as the second option instead of the first, I think teams find you more dangerous as a quarterback because you're not relying on your legs, your athleticism first, but you're using it as your secret weapon. Even though these defenses know he can rush and run the ball, if you're running the ball at the end in the fourth quarter as opposed to the second quarter or first quarter, because you don't know how to break down a defense throwing the football, I think it's just going to be more difficult for you to benefit or have your team benefit. Let's see. I can go get Sicky later. I like them both. Let's see. I'll read the team a little bit later, but hopefully you guys followed what I was kind of trying to say about the running back position, and I kind of got into a little bit of a ramble at the quarterback position. But at the running back position, I was essentially saying that if you're seeing a running back that's coming into your backfield and you're a rookie still, and they're not trying to offer you a contract going into your fifth year or even your fourth year, I think that's a problem. Now, I could be wrong in that running backs, I don't necessarily need Rico. I can take him later. The running back position, yes, it is valuable in my opinion, um, because of the type of wear and tear a running back gets in the NFL. I think by not having um, the belief from your team, um, and them really standing on your ability to take your team to the next level at the running back position, if they don't think you are a star, essentially is what I'm saying, you're not worthy of a lot of money like a Saquon Barkley. You're not worthy of a team to be trading for you early in the trade and um, early in the trade markets. And I think your ability to stay viable in the NFL slims down each and every year. Whereas when running backs are going into the latter half of their NFL careers, let's give the Najee Harris example. A running back that just a team that just plays out their running back rookie contract. They use him as much as they can with his abilities. However, when the off season hits, when free agency hits, they're not really willing to keep you on the team, and it's because you haven't produced how they wanted you to produce. And I'm really dire at the wide receiver position. I do have two, so I double stacked. I know about 1, 2. There's you know what? I could do that. I think there's a quarter running back or a quarter receiver that I like on that team. I also could go Milrow, and I think he's a fine play to play this season. I'm not going to get him till later. I do need points at the wide receiver position. Ooh. You know what? Whatever. We're taking 2-2 at 174. We're going to take Jermaine. These are my guys, okay, guys? So Jermaine Burton, Tutu Atwell. I think those are my favorite. Ooh. I could take Jimmy Horn on this team as well. Really bake in these teams. I think who I was going for was, and where did he go off? Because I was talking so much. Where's he at? I don't see him. Herbert ADP is 135. I don't see him at all, though. Where's this dude at? Get taken like... Oh, okay, 120. After my Tucker Craft pick. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's just an instant tap in the 10th and 11th for me, though. Justin Herbert, that pick. I just like to get diversified. I don't think it's I think it's a bit early for Herbert in my opinion. I think he's fine. I think Jordan Love and Herbert are the same quarterback, really. I think Herbert has a tad more rushing upside, so he's more so your underdog quarterback as opposed to, you know what? Give me Milrow. Let's see. Do I grab Torrey Horton? Do we grab Jimmy Horn or Jermaine Burton? I like them all. I grabbed Jackson Smith and Jigba. That is completely fine. Torrey Horton goes. That is completely fine also. I'm going to end it with a 3-6-7-2. Hopefully I get these two quarter wide receivers back to me. But we're going to draft on Underdog or on Draftkings. And I'll probably ramble another good bit on who I think. I'll do a $3 draft because I haven't really drafted on DraftKings. Allow. All right. No, enter the 3. I mean, I should have, but whatever. It's the same thing. Jermaine Burton. Taking that right there. Yeah, I like these quarterbacks. Before we get into DraftKings, that draft. Quarterback, I have Jordan Love, Bryce Young, Jalen Milrow. At the running back position, I went Jahmyr Gibbs, Chuba Hubbard, Quinshon Judkins, Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle. At the wide receiver position, I went Ladd McConkey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Tutu Atwell, Jermaine Burton. And if he comes to me, I'll do a Jimmy Horn pick. If not, I might have to do... Definitely have to do wide receiver. There's not really another wide receiver I really like down here. Yeah, there's not really a wide receiver I like down here. But he's available. I'm taking Jimmy Horn. He looked explosive. He could take, I think, Adam Thielen's job. I don't think Coker is all that great, in my opinion. I think Leggett has a chance to see the field. So at best, he's the wide receiver 3 on Carolina. But I took lots of Carolina pieces in this draft. I took a couple Seattle pieces on this team, a couple. I've been grabbing a lot more um the National Football Conference side, the NFC. Um I just think they're going to be a lot more competitive in my opinion. There's like the four elite um teams in the AFC, American Football Conference. Um Kansas City, I think the AFC West will be better, but not great. Um but Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati if they're healthy, and then Buffalo. But I think the NFC has a lot more chances to play a lot more teams that are kind of fighting for that last two places in the NFL, and I think that's fine. I don't think there is a running back in the later rounds that I really like. I think Sampson is fine, kind of betting on what I was telling you guys. Um, I think Judkins is a byproduct of what I was just saying, of kind of that running back tier of, I guess you could say, dead zone guys or running backs that are non-elite but very good, or um, I guess viable to play in the NFL but not to be league winners in fantasy. I think when we look at the draft board again, starting with Kyron here at the end of the third, and he goes in the third, more later in the third, fourth, and then in the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, going down to the seventh, um, and even into the eighth, I think, even the ninth and 10th. Yeah, just starting in the fourth is where you're going to find running backs that really can't hit. They can't be running back 1 through 12, in my opinion, or at least like 1 through 5. And those are the nuts that you're really trying to hit. That's why I think this year, more than anything, even though we had an influx of running backs, they kind of went to places that already had a running back in their backfield. There's also, I think, fewer elite running backs or running backs that fit the profile of being the all or getting the ball all three downs, getting the pass downs as well, getting check downs as well. I think fading Saquon is also the move, in my opinion, but I also do think that the way he wins is Saquon. I have the 109. Perfectly fine with the 109. I like the 109 through 111 a lot on Underdog. We have 12 rounds in DFS. Um, but I think on Underdog, the way Saquon wins, and I think the way he wins on Draftkings as well, maybe even more so on Draftkings than Underdog, is Saquon. The Eagles have to pass the ball a little bit more to the running back. Maybe AJ Brown or Devontae get hurt. Maybe their line isn't as great and they use Saquon more so with his passing ability, and he breaks off rushing touchdown or passing touchdowns. I think Saquon, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Gene to an extent. I think he has another year to really hit the ceiling. CMC, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane. If his team is fully healthy, he's okay, I guess. I think Derrick Henry is kind of getting up there in age. He's not great. I think Bucky has a chance, but I think when you really stop and look at running backs or just teams, you want a player that their offense is very concentrated, like we've seen with the Bengals last year, where they had Jamar and T, and then they kind of didn't have a third guy, or they had Gesicki as their third guy, but they needed someone else. And Gesicki and their running back to this extent was their third guy. And that's how Chase Brown was able to hit and be a league winner, essentially, to be that 0 RB guy. Let's see. You know, I'm gonna take Amon-Ra. I was thinking about Gene T. I was really thinking about Gene T right there. But I'm an Amon-Ra guy. I think this team is gonna be very good. Still, I think Amon-Ra. I think Jared Goff is very underrated as a quarterback. I think Puka right there at the 111 would have been a nice pick as well. Just because I think both of these teams are very concentrated. Like I was saying, him going Puka, Brian Thomas Jr. there was very interesting. I go London. Do I go AJ Brown? Do I go Ladd? Let me go Drake London. And I'll give you the reason. And I liked AJ Brown at the beginning of the offseason. Before the draft. And now I'm liking Ladd. And I think he's a perfectly fine pick. And in the second, I think I had him more so in the third in my drafts. But the reason why I went with Drake London in the second at pick 16 is we just seen the UW 2024 wide receiver room and how they kind of didn't really have a superstar emerge at the wide receiver position coming from that school. A team that, quite frankly, was able to all play together and look phenomenal in college football. And the reason why I took Drake London here is because I think he's head and heels above Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan, but also because I think he's going to fit very well with Michael Penix Jr. And I think Michael Penix Jr. did elevate that wide receiver room in Washington. And the Falcons have made a couple of bad decisions, in my opinion, the last couple of drafts. But if I'm going to bet on a team to really have a wide receiver one finish top 5 going in the first round, I don't think it's Nico Collins. I think it's going to be Drake London. The guy at 2 goes Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Interesting start. I think Atlanta's going to sling the ball around. They're going to really look at what they have in Penix. And I think if we're just completely wrong about Kyle Pitts, the beneficiary of that offense is going to be Drake London and Darnell Mooney. And I think Darnell Mooney is a tremendous pick in the later rounds on the assumption that Penix is a really good football player. In the second round, Underdog is very different from, in my opinion, Draftkings. It looks a little similar. We have a couple of names that are in different places, like Derrick Henry and Underdog. Let's see. Josh Jacobs falling a little bit, but more so they're kind of similar. The elite quarterbacks are going a bit early. I don't think it's going to be always like this. Let's see. So the Marv got picked. I was looking at him. He was interesting. I have to look at my ranks. Let's go J in here. Let's go elite quarterback right here. Then we'll go Doug. No. Then I want get him later. Might have to think about Chase Brown right there. Chase Brown goes. Yeah, I think the pick is Tet. Rashee Rice here. Interesting. You think Tet falls? Nah, I don't think Tet falls. I think this is a weird draft. I'm going to take Tet. I wasn't really into him prior to the draft. But I'm a Bryce Young truther. He goes to Bryce Young. If they're both really good, if I'm betting on Bryce, I'm betting on Tet. And if people are betting on Tet, that they're obviously betting on Bryce. I'm going to bet on both of them then. Instead of just betting on one, I'm going to bet on both of them this year. Say Tet opens up running lanes for Bryce, and Bryce opens up the middle of the field for Tet, or receptions for Tet. Just keeps the offense going. CD, I'm looking at the other draft picks that have majority wide receivers. So it's the 6-hole, the 8-hole, Neighbors, and Amon-Ra. You got the Neighbors slightly, but there's better quarterback play in Detroit. You got A.J. Brown and Drake London, in my opinion. They're both relatively pretty good. And then you have Marvin Harrison and then Tet McMillan. In my opinion, I think I do have to go with Tet, and I think Bryce is just a better quarterback than Kyler. DJ Moore going in the late 4th in Draftkings. Interesting. Chase Brown going a little bit lower in Draftkings is also interesting. Joe Mixon going higher above Kyron, I think, is not interesting. I think it's correct. I think Joe Mixon, I think I have him right around that 310 mark. I think I have him as early as 3.5 where Josh Jacob went. I think I don't think Houston and CJ Stroud are as good of an offense as last year's Lions team with Jared Goff. I think they're similar in that you have to build around that quarterback. However, I think when you do have Jared Goff, I think I like it more. I think because I have the Jaden Daniels rushing upside, I might want to go. Do I want to go Penix? Do I go Penix? Or do I go Jared Goff? I'm probably going to, because I want Bryce. I'm going to have a lot of, it depends on where their ADP is at. Devonta as the 4th wide receiver. Quite interesting. I don't know who to go with this one. I'm going to take Addison. Higher ADP. I like him a little bit more than Pickens. Pickens falls, he falls. He's probably not going to fall. But when you can get this value at wide receiver, I am going to take it and run. Didn't read here also. Mooney, like I said, it's fun. Kraft has about the same ADP. Dang, do I have to go running back? Kind of fallen. Oh, shit. You know, why not? I liked him. I liked him in the draft. Favorite running back. A play on the GT drafter. I think that was a good pick, in my opinion. If Pickens falls again, that would be crazy. But I'm very much okay with Hawkinson, Reed, Mason after that. I think with this draft, you're kind of saying if Swift doesn't hit sometimes, I'm okay with it too. He would be an okay pick on this team. Rico is on the board, of course. You're just wanting like guys that check down to their widers or running backs. Trey Benson on the board. Facial Tootin probably on the board. Sharp is potentially on the board. Warren on the board, maybe. Let's get a Tebow or Tracy is actually a good running back for this team. I like old man Jones. What I'll probably do is probably get Tracy just later on. Yeah, old man Jones. I'm gonna remove old man Jones. Even though I like him. There's just in my opinion, I think DraftKings can be kind of more difficult because there's so many values that fall to you. So there's like super teams that are essentially made. So you need like the nuts on every team to advance your teams. Pickens goes to the 69 pick. Kind of awesome, in my opinion. That guy has Hampton and Gibbs, awesome running back duo. McBride at tight end. So kind of the opposite approach of what I'm doing. I think he has a shot, and I think that is also. I think in Bestball this year, that's kind of what we need to go for. Is the nuts either way? Is we go elite and kind of a pseudo elite running back or a bully running back approach, or we go like an extreme wide receiver. I would have liked Swift there. An extreme wide receiver heavy play. I'll skip on Warren. Tracy. I'll go Reed. I think I'll be fine with War or Tracy not going to me. I think Jordan Mason is able to give me what I need. Goff going this early at pick 90, kind of scary. Might just throw on this Jordan Love. McCarthy is interesting. I was thinking Penix, though. Bryce goes same range as the same range in DFS as Underdog. Who is the other quarterback I was looking at? Goff, Penix, Bryce. I already have Jaden. So I really have openings. I'm thinking, so we have about 2 to 3 more picks till I have to go tight end. I think I'm gonna do tight end at the 112. Caleb goes off the board. Can I get Mason? I think it's steep for Goff. I'm going Tracy. Hopefully Mason comes back. So what I'm betting on is I'm saying that these running backs can do everything. Cam Scattaboo is a bum. And so is Ramondre. Yeah, I'm saying these are the running backs, man. They play every down. They're gonna get you what you need. Just give them the ball, feed them every time. So this is more of a zero RB approach. That means I need to get all the handcuffs of running backs. All the handcuff running backs that I think can outtouch other running backs going earlier in rounds. I think DJ Giddens is a fun example of that. So I got the guys queued up. I'm sorry with the energy, guys. But with my team, I have at quarterback Jayden Daniels. At running back, I have Trey Henderson, and Tyrone Tracy. At wide receiver, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, Tedero McMillan, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed. And at tight end, I got nothing. Because I know who I'm attacking. My God, I took a quaft. Jordan Mason comes back to me. What a beautiful call. What a beautiful call by your boy. Just a godsend, in my opinion. Kincaid, Fergie Ferg. All fun picks. Yeah, right here is where you want. I think there's still other people. Dang. Do I want to push Tucker Craft too? I kind of got the same team, which I don't know why I did that. No, I did more of a heavy running back, huh? Last year, I don't even remember. Let's see. Where was I? Yeah, I kind of did. I don't know. Oop, on the board. 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm gonna take Kraft. I think Love, McCarthy. Not so much McCarthy. McCarthy's a fine pick, I guess. Definitely Penix. Bryce. Ferg too. I'm more scared of Rico Dowdle than I am of Zach Charbonnet. I don't know why. Don't know why. Bateman is more so underdog pick, I think. I want Love Penix, then Ferguson, Bryce over McCarthy in this one. Rico. Baguette is cool. Two Kincaid. Okay. I think I got it situated. Luther Burden still undrafted. Might have to slap him up. That makes it hard because then I push tight end. One more. I kind of want to get done with tight end on this turn. Kind of want to go tight end. Quarterback here. I think I can wait on the running backs. Definitely want. You know what? I'm going to remove Luther Burton. Man, but we do have Lions. Dang it. We do have Lions and we do have. Oh, shoot. Go back. Oh, it's been so long. How do I enter? Oh no, it's been terribly long. Let's see. Tournament details, players, contests, draft now. Oh, on the board. Panic still on the board. Woo! J logo's off. I'll take Penix. It's a little early. Love's off the board. Just fine. Love went off. Burton went off. I think now McCarthy goes off. What did they have with McCarthy? They did naked McCarthy? Aaron Jones, I guess it's fine. Ugh. Gross. Kirk goes. Tua goes. Dang. One. Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna go Fergie Ferg. Pretty awesome at tight end here. Pretty awesome at quarterback. I think we need definitely a couple good picks at running back. A couple more good picks at wide receiver. We can definitely add Bryce Young to this quarterback room. I'm also thinking like Milrow will be a nice pick here. People really don't think he's gonna play this season. I think he will, at least for a good 6 games, if not 8 games or 9 games. So 17 game season, say he sits 8. If the Seahawks just aren't awesome with Sam Darnold, I think they have high expectations for Sam Darnold, or at least not super high. I think the expectations in Seattle for Sam Darnold are a little bit better than Geno, which is why we moved off Geno and grabbed you, or at least Geno, and if not better than Geno, and if not, hey, we'll take the swing. We have you locked up. Worst case scenario, our rookie quarterback doesn't look great at all. We have to put you back in the lineup. Sort of like an Anthony Richardson bet. I think he's an interesting click at the end of in like the 18th and 19th round. Because I think Penix is going to play the entire season, and Jaden Daniels is going to play the entire season. But I like the Bryce click a little bit more. I'll go Bryce Leggett, Bryce Rico here. Probably Bryce Rico. Yeah, I have my entire lineup filled out, my starting lineup. I think I'm ready to go to war with these guys. They shall tootin'. Rashad White, Tajay Spears goes off the board. Jayton Blue, Trey Benson, good pick. I can kind of tell if they're good picks by the picks they chose before. So Richardson, wow, that's early for Richardson. We're gonna go Bryce. We're gonna go Rico on the way back around. If not, Leggett. If not that one, shoot, Bigsby. I think that's the pick after that. If not Bigsby, shit. Might have to go. Hunter Henry is a third tight end. Pretty fine. Jalen Noel, the later. Wow, Jalen Noel goes late. Love that. Demario Douglas is pretty cool later. Rico Dowdle is the play. Got a running back on Carolina. Got a pass catcher on Carolina. Don't have any stacks for Jayden Daniels. I have a guy in mind that I can grab, not Austin Eckler, but a wide receiver that I think can emerge. Let's see. This guy goes Sam Darnold, Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence. Kind of gross wide receiver, or tight end, quarterbacks. Excuse me. I'll get it right. I like the Swift pick. I like the Mooney pick. I like the Bateman pick. Harvey okay at price. Rashee Rice in the 4th was really nice too as well. He probably thought he could go Jaden in the 4th. I don't like the H-N pick. He's a little bit better in PPR, full PPR. Bijan, nice pick as well. He's okay. But I think his quarterback has no ceiling, man. I mean, he has ceiling, but that floor is low. Jesus. Like, my floor is like, okay, every guy can get injured, benched, but like, top 10 round pick, top 10 round pick, top 10 round pick. His was, I guess, the same, but a lot older guys. Or at least Trevor and Darnold. Tyler Algier probably will be the click. Ooh, he goes. Dang. That sucks. Would have been nice. Whatever. Jalen Noel? Or DJ Giddens? DJ Giddens I can get later. Dylan Sampson. You know what? We're going to follow what I just said. Say, hey, this guy, he's not great. This, where'd he go? This Quidshon Judkins guy, not great. He had an awful draft. Jesus. Lamar Allen, fine. And he goes likely Kincaid, Otten at tight ends. Ugh. Jefferson, fine. Flowers, fine. Then Shakir, Abuka, Higgins. Kyle Williams, and Wan'Dale Robinson. And a running back, Kamara, Judkins, Blue. Gross. Freaking gross. Hey, quiet. Oh my god. Who's doing this? Happy. Oh. My guy is sleeping. He's sleeping. Oh, on the clock. Ooh. Oh, no went. Giddens is available. We're gonna go Jalen Wright. Just a bet that HN ain't great. Let's see. Just like a bet that HN is getting his work eaten a little bit more than people expected him to. I like Kyle Monangai. I really do. Let's see. Where are we at? What are we at? We're at a 3.652. So obviously we need a little bit more firepower at the wide receiver position. I think we're fine, to be honest. I think I need another running back. Henderson, Tracy, Mason, Rico, Sampson, Wright. That is pretty alright, but I'm going to go one more. Just to be safe. Estimate. You know what? I've been queuing up Giddens. I'm going to keep Giddens. If not, we got Woody Marks on the board still. Mario Douglas. Jermaine Burton. Who else did I like over here? Pat Bryant. It could be. Oh, Jalen Lane is the click I was looking for. Everybody else is like, not really a play that I like around here. Torrey Horton's okay, I guess. I'm gonna do. Let's see. DJ Gittens. Probably go 2-2. We have how many picks left? 4? 3. 3 picks. All right. I think I'm okay at tight end myself. I'm going to go Chig, I guess. I'm going to push Chig. I can go JT. I really like doing 3 quarterback more than 3. And I think even though tight end hits the flex sometimes, what you get out of an elite quarterback with 2 lower end quarterbacks going in the lower rounds, I think it's very, very nice because you get So now I'm trying to think like I'm gonna go 2-2 here. I can get Jalen Lane on the back end. Jermaine Burton. I'm gonna stand on the tight ends that I picked. Stand on the running backs that I picked. I think those are the 5 that I'm thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I'm thinking. In the order. Probably like that. Let's see. We are at a 3762. Let's see. You can do as many as 3772 or 3773. I like my team a lot. Jalen Wright kind of doesn't feel. Jalen Wright probably not the click there. I actually think I should have went Douglas. And then I would have been fine at wide receiver. And then flexibility at the later two picks, but that's okay. I think I do like Estimate over Jalen Wright. Jordan James goes off the board at 222. Jatavion Sanders goes right before me. Let's grab Jalen. Let's grab Jalen Lane. And then I guess I'm going to tight end because not really any of these tight ends, if I'm being quite honest with you. Not really. Cole Kmet if he gets traded, of course. Shoot. I think I'm going to take the bet on Jermaine Burton. I like the offense. Let's see. Maybe they play Miami week 17. Not really a week 17 type of guy. I think he just can offer me the most points here with the guys I have queued up. Maybe Estimate offers a little bit more. Ollie Gordon still on the board. Shoot. We're going to take him. Man. Or Hunter. We're going to take Burton. Burton came along for the ride. I'll let him be in my team. Hunter goes off the board. The Jatavion Sanders team. He also gets Hunter Henry. He had a lot of good hits, a lot of misses too, in my opinion. Who's this L. Wester guy? Jesus. Ollie Gordon, Kyle Monungai, guys. Monungai, guy I like. Gordon, a guy that other fantasy players like. Bobo, I think. Coker, I think. Pierce, I also think. Guys that I just don't like at all. I'm a Seahawk fan. I think Bobo was cut. Coker, I think he was just right place, right time. Pierce, same thing. I think the Parker Washington pick's a lot better than the Bobo Coker Pierce pick. I like the two. I like my picks more. Tutu Burton, uh, Lane also. I like the Boudet pick. That was a good pick. Eric All is like injured for the year. Leave. I don't think they gave you like a ranking, but I like that one. I liked it. It was nice, interesting. I'll run one more later on. Um, it's contest team. Why can't I see it? What's wrong with it? Oh, you guys know who I had on that team. I just wanted to pull up the board, see what that board looked like one more time. Really look into what this title of the video had said. So, in full PPR, just looking at full PPR right now because we're on Draftkings. I think Saquon, like my thumbnail shows, is a better full PPR click than half PPR click. Just the range of outcomes that can go along with him. Maybe that Eagles team needing more breakaway receptions than breakaway touchdowns or goal line carries to get in the end zone, and that's how he wins the full PPR running back one. HN is okay. Bijan, I think I gotta get more of. I really don't pick in the middle between like 5, 6, and 7 on that range. Sometimes Bijan just goes in front of me if I'm at the 5 or 6 and he goes the 2 or 3. Kind of scary, to be honest. If I'm really into Penix, I think Bijan comes along for the ride. And the way Penix doesn't outsee outproduce or I think produce what I think he can at the quarterback position is that they just make it a run offense, a run first offense, and then Penix kind of does what he does in lieu of that, and back of that, kind of not being the engine, more so the thing that makes the team just continue to go, kind of like the oil change. If I'm using a car scenario, in order for the engine to run, you do need an oil change, but the car doesn't just run because it just has an oil change, if that makes any sense. Like Bijan can be the 101 if everything flows through him, and Penix can come along for the ride if everything flows from him. Whereas in my draft, at least, I'm saying everything goes along well because Bijan isn't the guy and Penix is the guy. Penix is the guy that continues to do what he does. Maybe because the defense is terrible, but maybe also because, or even a better example would be because Bijan is not getting enough yards when he gets carries. And so I think that would be my analysis, my analytical approach to this draft. Um, Gene T goes up here. Nico in full PPR is, I think Brian Thomas just still has to go in front of Nico because of how consolidated that offense is in Jacksonville compared to Houston. Or concentrated, I should say, in how concentrated that offense is in Jacksonville compared to in Houston. And let's see. Like I think Nico is just like, give me him after Lad McConkey, JSN, Garrett Wilson. I think he goes in front of probably Garrett Wilson, but I think he's more so in that Lad JSN tier. Um, and you can say T is more so in the tier where he's probably in front of Lad or like right behind Lad and JSN. Um, around there because of what he brings to the offense if he's like fully healthy. Something that he hasn't been throughout his career. But if he is, he's definitely 1,000-yard guy, locking like 7 touchdowns, which is fine, which is like really good for fantasy. Um, More yards would even be better in full PPR, of course. I think in full PPR, I'm willing to go for more of a Harrison click. I don't need the touchdowns in full PPR. If he can offer me just the yards, I think I'm willing to do that. As well as Tyreek. I think those two are just. I'm thinking of more so my entire fantasy portfolio. And so when you have a Harrison and a Hill, that their offenses don't need to be amazing and scoring all the time. But if they can just like push the ball from goal line to goal line without scoring and being at least efficient in the offense that way, I think that's important for fantasy drafters that are picking guys that are on kind of fragile offenses like the Jets with Garrett Wilson, even to some extent Jackson Smith and Jigba and their uncertainty in Seattle with Tyreek Hill and his age in Miami, and that quarterback uncertainty with Tua, and then Washington. And I think them not adding more players or more depth to that offense, but having Jaden do everything, which is why I think I picked Jaden the early third. I think he's going to have to just scramble the ball a little bit more because the offense, they got what they got out of that offense, not because it was a good offense, but because of what Jaden Daniels brought to that offense. I think they're a team that could probably miss the playoffs just because they didn't add anything to that offense, but he's a really good quarterback, in my opinion. Joe Mixon going here again, like I said, it's the right spot. I think once he goes, I think you can even say like, well, I would probably have in full PBR Hill, McLaurin, Harrison, the wide receivers in front of the running back here. But I would definitely have him in front of Kyron because he does offer the pass catching ability, what we saw in Cincinnati. Um, I think in that case, in this case, I think you want Chase Brown a little bit higher. Um, Maybe around where Josh Jacobs went in this draft. Chase Brown around there. I think Brees to some extent. I think Kyron is a big loser, and not someone that we're looking at values in DraftKings, but more so in DraftKings where you're looking at guys that can catch the ball and offer you points. I think Kyron is an even bigger loser in full PPR than half PPR. Now I can be totally wrong and say the running backs that are backing up Kyron are just backups. Um, and Kyron offers the best overall talent to or the is the best player in the backfield in the Rams backfield. Which I think if you go Puka at the 111, I think you're saying Puka has a chance to be the wide receiver one. And I think Kyron, whereas you're not betting on the offense, you're betting on players that can hit your lineup week in and week out. Um, I think in the playoffs you're limiting um, your weekly ceiling to hit potential outcomes. So if you have Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams going into the best ball finals, I think that's the wrong stack to do. I think if you want to stack, you do Puka and Devontae Adams, um, or maybe even not Devontae Adams, but you get Puka and like Brian Thomas, but you also get instead of Cook, you get Tet, another wide receiver one on that offense, and then instead of Kyron, you go ahead and get Neighbors or Rice or someone that can offer that weekly ceiling. I think Zay needs to be a guy that needs to be more so around where I picked Tet. In my opinion, I think he's a guy that if this offense doesn't go according to plan in Baltimore, he's going to be a wide receiver that needs to needs to move up the rankings and will benefit from that. Now he does have an injury, and who knows what he's like coming off that injury. But having Zay around there is quite nice. Let's see. I think a guy I just don't like his price because I didn't like the price last year and it paid off. But this year being a lot more expensive on that offense, not looking too great. They don't get a running back that we all love, um, or we like him, but and he had decent draft capital. It was just not the guys we were thinking of in uh in uh in Tyron, Trey Hendrickson, even Gene T or Amarian Hampton. But they wait to go get RJ Harvey, a guy that's also going in the 5th round. I think one of those will be a winner and the other will be a loser. I think, and then I think it's going to be Harvey if you're going to pick one of those players in Denver. I think you go for the younger player, the more explosive player, um, and that's RJ Harvey. It's not Sutton, Cortland Sutton. Uh, I think those are probably the worst picks in my opinion, or at least the bottom 12 or the bottom half of the 12 that are going in. At least this round that I see in DraftKings. Um, I think in the 5th you definitely want. I think it's a little bit rich for Kenneth Walker, but I think if they just want to use him as the bruiser and Zach Charbonnet is just strictly the backup, I think he's going to play very nicely into Seattle, or I hope he does because I think he has the ability to do that. but I think he even can go around later or a round and a half later. So like where I took Hendrickson, I think that's fine. Or where he goes in Underdog. This is just a little rich for Kenneth Walker. But as I was saying, the winners in the 5th round, I think, are Hurts. Or if you want a winner, it's going to be Hurts, Kittle, I think James Conner to some extent, Sam Laporta. Just betting on that this offense has to pass the ball more. In Detroit, RJ Harvey, like I was saying, and then your 5th, that would be, let's say, their offensive line isn't as great as it was last year. They go through some injuries or something. It's going to be Devontae Smith. I think the bottom half, and I do like my Addison click. I think Addison's right there in the middle. After Addison probably goes Walker, probably Kamara. He's like the second guy on his offense. Probably the first guy, to be honest, because of the quarterback and what they offer, the quarterback position. But I think like after you get, it's interesting because you see fallers, Pickens, Judy, Olave, guys that you don't really see fall, even JMO to some extent, a guy that I really don't like too often. But in the sixth round, I think it's better than, what do we have JMO going in Underdog? He's going in the early 5th. So JMO going around later, I think it's a better pick. There's just a couple guys that go earlier, a couple guys that go later. So the only guy that I see going super early, besides the quarterbacks, of course, this guy at the 2-hole doesn't know how to draft. I think Zay was a good pick. But Joe Mixon going here at in 3rd or end of the 3rd is a value I'm willing to pay in full PPR. Guys that are not values in the early half of it. I think DJ Moore dropping to the later 4th, maybe even to the 5th later on, would be a nice value there. In full PPR as opposed to half PPR. I think even like a Travis Hunter that, hey, they need a spike week or a spike play. He gets the ball from a quick slant and takes it 30 yards. I think that would be a nice play also. A rather rich play, in my opinion, where you can get Pickens later on. So, or Reed later on, Golden later on. I think that's where Travis Hunter kind of has to go around, or at least around later, just because of what the value is in the 7th and 8th rounds, 6th and 7th round, in full PPR on Draftkings. And then of course you have Luther Burton going in the 11th, Darnell Mooney, who I quite like, going in the 10th. Josh Downs, who I'm not opposed of taking, but I clearly did like him a lot more last year because of the uncertainty in that quarterback room, and now that Anthony Richardson doesn't look as good, I think it's not as an upside play, but it clearly has its openings to being a good play this year. Anthony Richardson taking his steps forward. I think what what you did with a 0, or what I did on Underdog, and what I was looking for is I have my 2 running backs. I got three running backs that I do like here, or at least 3 or 4 wide receivers that I liked in Ladd, JSN, Addison. Addison, I think he's climbing, but I think that's where he usually goes. And then Jaden Reed, and also having 2 running backs. I think for me, I think I could have went and moved, and I think that was my play also, was, hey, I have 2 running backs that can hold down the fort for me. But if he goes off and has a spike week, I'm willing to take it. And Quinshon Judkins, I don't need him to be a fool, a guy that gives me wide receiver or running back 1 points throughout the year. If I have 2 guys that I know can offer me that I know their teams are going to be good and they're going to be giving them the ball, giving them 18 to 20 carries per game. I have the Judkins backup to, if he wants to go nuclear, he can. So I could have went Sam Laporta there. Say, hey, Sam Laporta is just a better pick to have a tight end than have a running back there in the 6th round. But to me, I thought it was a lateral play, and I didn't know that Swift was gonna drop so far. I want to see Swift. His ADP is at 81. He dropped to, I think he dropped to 88. He drops to 88 about a half round later. I would have scooped him at 91 for sure. I jump the gun on Mason, Charbonnet, sometimes Scatterboo. Because I think there's a clear tier break with those guys. I think those are high end backups, whereas I think Pollard to some extent, Brian Robinson, Pacheco, and even to some extent Swift, Aaron Jones are low end running back 1s on their offense. So I just rather take the high end upside plays at the 2 position, pay up just a tad, and get those players on my team. But that's more so strategy in terms of every draft. In terms of values, in my opinion, we'll go back to Draftkings, finish off Draftkings, and then go back to Underdog. I think the value in Draftkings is you have these spike week guys that you don't need to get in the 4th and 5th. You can get them in the 6th and 7th. And even to some extent, you have those guys going in Underdog in at the same costs, but you're getting the added points in full PPR than you are in half PPR. And so getting those wide receiver points in full PPR as opposed to half PPR, those spike week guys, it's a better play in my opinion. So the values would be, I think you can say I think it's still early with Odunze, and it's always, I always like to think first and foremost, how deep is their team, um, and especially like on offense. So I think even though they go around the same range, would I rather have Rome Odunze spike week or DK Metcalf spike week? I think I would roll the dice and grab DK Metcalf spike week. Because if they are in a shootout, both teams, one quarterback is gonna feed the ball to all their wide receivers, and both teams are gonna feed the ball to all their wide receivers. But on the depth chart, DK Metcalf is higher as the wide receiver one in Pittsburgh, whereas Rome is the wide receiver one in Chicago. That's thinking of it more so depth chart and where you're drafting these players. But if we scroll down, let's say to the even right here in the 10th round, 10th, 11th, 12th round, you're giving me Darnell Mooney, the number 2 on Atlanta, versus Michael Pittman Jr. in Indy, kind of a little bit more of a skeptical offense, more so they're going to be an offense that tries to run the ball a little bit more, an inefficient quarterback play. And I'm thinking more so Atlanta has a better quarterback or just an average quarterback, that has better offensive players, that can score more often or put more yards on the field. I think Jermaine Burton, here is a far better play in the 11th round than Rome Odunze is. We don't know where they are in the pecking order of getting the ball, but they both can have 4 or 5 catches for 90 yards. And which one would you rather have? Would you rather have the one that is going in the 5th that you have to pay a higher price in, or the one in the 11th round where you can grab a couple more wide receiver ones on offenses like the Detroit Lions offense, Jacksonville's offense, the Rams offense, even Carolina's offense, on top of the Burton, on top of a running back one as well, and even like a tight end, high end tight end one, or your choice of a high end tight end or an elite quarterback also in there. It's just like, what are you giving up for these players for those spike weeks? You have to really think about that. So I think in the early rounds for those spike weeks, you really gotta think of how good that team is gonna be, and then in the middle rounds, it's like, still how good is that team gonna be? Um, but to a lesser extent, because they're going later in the round, and you're really betting that your player is the same, if not better than the other guy on the average team, um, or on the team that can produce those points. But then you have other players that can beat the other team's players, because they have uh because you have a higher tight end and a higher running back choice, or going earlier in the round, like this guy. If I'm just comparing it from the 5 hole to my draft. Let's see. This guy goes Luther Burton. He goes Luther Burton as his 1, 2, 3. So maybe not the best example, because of what he did structurally. Burton is actually his third wide receiver. So I would have to pick a team that paid up a bit more for their spike weeks. So let's say the guy at 12, he went Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk. His running backs are CMC, Chase Brown, Tony Pollard. And his quarterbacks are CJ Stroud, Drake May, and then his tight end is Brendan Strange and Terrence Ferguson. So, and then my team is he has more flexibility at the wide receiver position, which if you're in my opinion, I like what he did a little bit more with the more certain running backs, and then having lots of shots at wide receiver. But I think my tight end is gonna outscore his tight ends by a long shot. And so I think he gets hurt that way because he has to play a tight end. And then he has like these quarterbacks that are okay. One that might not even have a team. But 2 other quarterbacks that need to, one that has to throw the ball for at least 300 yards to put up what I can put up at the elite quarterback position, but also a quarterback that could be playing just on a not good offense versus my other 2 quarterbacks that go 1 or 2 rounds later that don't need to start for me but can at playing similar offenses, if not better. So I think he beats me at running back. I think we're about even. I think you could say my wide receivers are better. And then I beat him at tight end. I think my team is clearly stronger than his team. Deeper in all facets of the draft. But I think what you try to do is you try to model your team in the best way possible. And if I'm trying to think of how to model your team in the best way possible, it's getting the best players and the best teams at the best part of the board. In the part of the board that's either in the best part of the board where you have to take this guy, or you reach up a little and take the guy that's clearly above the other guys, or that's giving you outs to more points throughout your lineup. So you're not giving up points at the quarterback position for a 4th wide receiver or even 5th wide receiver when you don't have even a quarterback or tight end yet. So I think going four wide receivers is fine in the top 6 rounds. But once you get to 5 and 6 and you only have 1 or 2 positions filled out, it kind of is a detriment to you. And then if you have players that are, in my opinion, older, coming off injury in his case, I mean, they can still hit. But in his case, Ayuk and Godwin coming off injury, Adams dealing with age, McCaffrey also coming off injury, and then Kirk kind of being older, not in his prime anymore. Rodgers older as well. I just think sometimes you got to know where to place your risk on the board, and that goes wherever you are picking on the board. In my opinion, if we were just splitting the board in the middle between CMC and Bijan, I think clearly there is a tier break. I think the better wide receivers from the rounds 1 through 6, 7, at least in Draftkings, are on the right side of the board. Now I think Lad is quite good. CM Lad I think Lad's quite good. CD Lamb, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Zay, T Chase, Jamar. I think those guys are all really good. So if you're in the front of the board, I think you take the wide receivers at least 1 through 3. I think your rounds 1 through 3. I don't think you diversify in different plays. If you're in the back of the board, I think you still want to start with wide receiver. But in the second, third, fourth round, I think you're more optimistic into those running backs. I think you wanna try and go for if Brown drops to you, if Mixon is there, if let's say Josh Jacobs even drops to you, that would be nice too, or you pull him up in the second. If he doesn't drop in the late third, CMC, you take that risk. Even Jonathan Taylor, to some extent, you want to shoot for that, or HN in the early second round. You don't let Chuba fall. You take him in the early fourth. You hope James Conner gets pushed to you in the later fifth. I think I want to say, in my opinion, you're having you want. I think you want. I want to say you want running backs a little bit later, more in the 2, 3, 4 range, early fifth. I think you get a little bit more diversified in your picks from the 7 through 12 hole, and in the 1 through 6 you just go wide receiver in rounds 1 through 3, and you just get whoever follows to you, and then you just take your running backs in the 4th and 5th. I think that's the call. I think if you wanna, I think your call is at the end of the board. Your call is, I'm gonna beat you at running back and take running back in the second. and your call in the beginning of the board is wide receiver. So I was trying to say that actually wide receiver is stronger at the back of the board than in the front of the board. I think in rounds 1 through 2 it's kind of the same. In rounds 3 and 4 it gets hazy. In 3 and 4 everything gets mixed up after. So people just start taking whatever they like. Starting in round 4, so Chuba Hubbard gets pushed to the end. A Brees more or less goes around there. I picked Tet at pick 40, 404. But he could have probably dropped where DJ Moore was, and DJ Moore goes where I picked Tet. Mike Evans fell a little bit more. My side of the board was just not into Mike Evans as much. Yes, I think you go in the front of the board, wide receiver heavy in the first couple rounds. And the back half of the board, you can go, you can get a little bit diverse. Take the fall. I think it's deeper at the end of the board, or at least the way it felt to me and the way I've been drafting is I've been getting a lot of 9 through 11, 9 through 12 picks, and I'm able to draft, I think, solid teams with wide receivers that I get. If I go 2 wide receivers in the beginning of the first and second, I diverge and get an elite quarterback or a running back or 2, or I go wide receiver, elite quarterback, running back, and then I go back heavy into wide receivers. I get my tight end in the 9th or 10th. Go ahead and grab a quarterback. I get another tight end, another quarterback, and then I go back to wide receiver until about, or I go back into running back just a tad, or I go whatever I like that is given to me on the board at the end of the draft. I think the late middle before the end, probably like between rounds 14 and 16, I think everything's kind of like whatever. Sometimes, like I was saying when I was drafting, between like 7 and 12, you really want to get diverse. You really want to, I think you want more running back or wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, not so much running backs. You want to pick and choose your running backs in the 8 through 12, 8 through or 6 through 14, around there. So like I'm choosing Rico, Garando to some extent. I'll probably be a little bit in on Bigsby, Benson, Tootin, Charbonnet, Warren, Scatterboo, Mason, just those guys. And then you want, I think I want more so, I think the wide receivers are just there's not as many tier breaks, or at least the way I'm thinking about it. the range of outcomes is just a little bit more unclear for the wide receivers to hit in their way, and I think I want to be more diverse in the wide receivers than the running backs. I think they are who they are. I don't want too much Pacheco or Brian Robinson. Pollard, kind of. I don't think he's winning me anything. Aaron Jones, I think he could fall off. I'm not into White, not into Spears. I mean, Blue can be okay. Not into Javonte, not into Ramondre, not into Eckler or Hunt. Ray Davis will be whatever. Because I don't think James Cook is all that awesome. I think running back is just nasty until you get to. I think Rico is just very underpriced. Last year it was Chuba. This year I think Rico could be the answer, and what Carolina really wanted out of Jonathan Taylor, the pass catcher in that backfield. I'll be on both running backs in Carolina because I do think that's what is going to be what Carolina bases their identity off of, is getting the ball into the hands of their running backs and to their playmakers, which is why I'm into Tet again. And I think Bryce is more than capable of being a quarterback that can get the ball into the hands of his playmakers. In Underdog, it's more dependent on what is offered to you at what their outcome is, more scoring based, I guess you can say. If they are end zone, if the team has to be really good, and has to be able to score, to get what you're looking for. So that's why I think like to get to for you to have that pick be good for you in fantasy. So like for instance, Nico Collins, I think the Texans offense will be okay. Just good enough for him to maybe pay off that ADP. So if he can put up 1,200 yards, that's good. 7 touchdowns, I think that's okay. But if Drake puts that up, if AJ Brown puts that up, if Ladd and T and JSN put that up, and they're going a couple rounds later, I think Nico Collins is not the right click in the first round. I think if CMC is, and the 49ers are really good again, and CMC stays healthy, they're able to establish the run, get CMC the ball. I think he's a phenomenal click. I think you're just very much having to really identify the really good teams and really good players on those teams that can score and can win. I think winning is or points leads to wins. I want to say and wins leads to points. But points definitely leads to a winning outcome. So there's a stat that said, I think 80 or 90% of teams that are able to convert in the red zone are able to go to the playoffs. Now, if we really can think about those outcomes before the season begins, especially for Underdog, I think that gives you a leg up on your opponents. So say the Philadelphia Eagles are just a team that gets touchdowns. The Bengals are just a team that gets touchdowns. The Falcons are just a team that gets touchdowns. Your conclusion is therefore that, or those are the teams that are going to get into the playoffs. Well, your conclusion is then for Underdog, the site that teams have to score points. The points are going to lead to you winning your fantasy leagues and maybe even winning Bestball Mania, but advancing at least a good number of your teams in the later rounds and getting profit and being profitable. And then so picking players that maybe you're not too much into because maybe their team doesn't score all that much. If you're really not into Indianapolis Colts and Jonathan Taylor scoring what was it, like 10 touchdowns last year? 11 touchdowns on the ground and a touchdown through the air. If you're not into the Colts, like I'm not into the Colts, then that's not a player that you're going to be wanting to click. If you're not into the Jets, then Breece Hall is not going to be a player that you're not going to be into. If you're not into the Broncos, if you don't think they're a contender for the playoffs, you're not going to be, or you shouldn't be into Cortland Sutton, even to some extent, RJ Harvey in the 5th round. Let's see. So I think I was able to give you guys some pointers on who to be drafting in Draftkings. Let me leave off you guys with that, and I'll dive deeper into more analysis later. Thank you guys so much for watching.